It's the small things. Charlie Brown is absolutely adorable. I really thoroughly enjoyed this. This was released this year in 2022. It's on Apple TV, and normally I prefer the older, more classic Charlie Brown animations to the more contemporary ones that I've seen. But this one is actually one of my favourites. It was directed by Raymond S. Percy, and Charlie Brown is voiced by Tyler James Nathan. And it's actually one of the longest as well. I think it's just shy of 40 minutes, which is the longest Charlie Brown cartoon that I have seen. But it seemed to go by really quickly. And Charlie Brown's little sister Sally wants to join in the baseball team because the Charlie's baseball team are getting ready to play against Peppermint Patties. It's a big game and they're very nervous and they really need to practice. But Sally, realizing she's still too little to take part in the baseball team, decides to befriend this dandelion that's on the mound instead, and she gets in everybody's way. They can't practice around her. She is sitting with this dandelion, refusing to move. Just how far will Charlie Brown go to get his sister to move? It's really sweet. I do feel like he should have just picked her up and moved her, because she really did annoy me in this one. But at the same time, I really understand her motivations. And there's a strong message in this about the fact that people have different importances in their life. The baseball game was really important to Charlie Brown, but at no point should he have thought that the baseball game was more important to him than the dandelion was more important to Sally, because she cared deeply about this dandelion. Yes, it's just a weed, but to her, it represented herself. It was alone, it was isolated, it had nobody there to support it, and she felt the same way after being basically rejected from the baseball team because she couldn't play. And she felt very alone and isolated, and she found a kindred spirit in this dandelion, and by trying to get Sally to move, it was kind of showing her that Charlie Brown didn't care about her feelings through him not caring about the dandelion. And it was really moving and actually really beautiful, and how some of the other kids reacted to it I thought was brilliant. It's not one of the funniest episodes of Charlie Brown. There are some that I think are very funny with some brilliant dialogue. And the dialogue here is very good, but I found it to be a lot more heartfelt, a lot more sentimental, and very well animated, of course. One bit that I particularly found interesting, well, maybe that's an exaggeration, but I quite liked the movement of the feet. There's a scene where Charlie Brown and I think Linus are crossing the road. I just really liked how the feet were animated as they were walking. I know it's an odd thing to notice, but I noticed it nevertheless. I really enjoyed it. It's got a really lovely, strong message in it. It's very moving and emotional and very beautiful. Very well done. It's the Small Things Charlie Brown is definitely my favourite contemporary Charlie Brown that I've seen. One of my favourites of all Charlie Brown cartoons. And if you're a fan of Charlie Brown, it's definitely one that I recommend you watch.